makes the larger export markets. It makes export market larger sebab sekarang you can trade with more countries. It also more likely to encourage regional cooperation in areas such as infrastructure, transport, and telecommunication. An example for this point is for landlocked countries. So if you don't know what landlocked countries is, landlocked countries ni country yang in surrounding them semuanya land. Diorang tak ada bodies of water. Diorang tak ada ports. Okay. So it is important for a country tu untuk ada port sebab shipments coming to a country, for example you beli barang kat Shopee, it doesn't necessarily naik guna flight. Like barang from China doesn't necessarily nak naik into flight. Shipments are also sent through oceans using ships, and benda-benda yang besar-besar yang send into using ship tu, they need to land on a port, right? So countries yang landlocked countries ni diorang tak ada air, so they need this port. They need this port for their trade, for their trade process. So memang it is important for them. So when you have trade agreements and then other country let you use their port, it's basically very easy for landlocked countries to do trade now since they have that access. Okay, and other infrastructure network in neighboring country such as Afghanistan and Kazakhstan is one of landlocked countries that use other countries punya port. Okay, and lastly, the advantages for preferential access scheme is that it has greater efficiency as domestic producer will compete with lower price imports from other member countries. Okay, what this means is greater efficiency as domestic import will compete with lower price imports from other member countries. Okay, because now that imports are lower price, so domestic producers now they can compete. Sekarang like the material to make local products are now cheaper, so then they can make product that have lower cost so that they can compete with import stuff that are lower price. And okay, now we look at disadvantages. For economic integration, dia punya disadvantages is that the role of World Trade Organization WTO might be undermined. So first of all, we can know what is the role of World Trade Organization first. What they do is they negotiate rules of trade and settle trade disputes. So for example, kalau Malaysia and Indonesia ada trade disputes with each other, so what WTO their role is to basically negotiate between the two countries so that diorang tak bergaduh. So now that people are having preferential access scheme and they can negotiate in between each other without the need of WTO. So basically the textbook said the role of WTO might be undermined sebab basically they don't need them anymore. And the second one is trade can become more complicated with agreements with other trading blocs. So when you have, okay, for example, Malaysia and Indonesia, you already have the agreement and the scheme, but then you don't have the agreement and the scheme with Brunei. Now Brunei wants the same benefit that Indonesia has. So it complicates Malaysia dengan Brunei punya trading process. And lastly, unemployment may arise. Less efficient companies with higher labor costs may not be able to compete with lower price import from other countries. This one, because now, okay, the way I understand it is that, Actually, teacher, what does this last point mean? Okay, but never mind. I'll get back to it. We just move on first. Okay, so now we look at how might diversification of economic activity help to achieve economic growth and or development. Okay, so first we look at the problem. The problem we have now is number of developing countries has been over dependent upon exporting a limited range of primary commodities, food, raw materials, fuels, base metal. What this mean that developing countries, we are only trading things that are involving primary commodities such as food, raw materials, fuels, base metals. So if you tengok kat developed countries, now they are focusing more on like more they are focusing more on like cars or technology that will give more profits at the end. So the problem with like developing company, kita terlalu dependent on stuff such as raw materials. So it is a problem because these raw materials may have it used back then, but now it's no longer needed. So when you are over dependent, it really over dependent. For example, kita cakap fuel kan. So fuel punya price naik turun, and then nowadays there is electric car because some countries are very over dependent on fuels yang when fuel prices jatuh or when there is no longer need for a fuel, that country will be in great problem. So so basically in this slide, what it's telling us is how to solve that problem of being over dependent. One of it is export diversification. Export diversification ni maksudnya kita export lagi ada benda daripada primary commodities. Okay. By shifting an economy away from a single income source toward multiple sources from a growing range of sectors and markets. So daripada kita tengok dekat raw materials je, fuels je, we have other stuff in the country that we can invest and then other stuff nanti we can develop. So basically export diversification ni kita export other things daripada that one thing yang that country is known to export. Known to export. For example, kalau Saudi Arabia, they just export fuel. Now they're gonna export maybe cars. Yeah, that is basically what that points mean. And the reason why we need export diversification is to move from production and export of primary commodities and replace this with export of manufactured and semi-manufactured products. Okay, so I will give another example. Macam kat Malaysia, we have kelapa sawit, right? So instead of exporting like the raw kelapa sawit, we can export like for example, diorang punya products such as that has been manufactured. Maybe oil, like kelapa sawit oil or soap or shampoo. So then it still have its relevancy in like the global market. Okay, so the benefit is to promote themselves from the volatile changes in primary product prices. To protect themselves tu maksudnya volatile changes primary product prices tu minyak like fuel. Okay, it goes up and down. So to protect themselves tu maksudnya now that they are producing manufactured and semi-manufactured product, diorang dah buat shampoo and shampoo ke, diorang dah buat sabun ke, these prices wouldn't go up and down and it's still being exported. So they don't get they won't be affected if like the fuel prices drop. And then to stabilize or increase export revenue, now ada lagi banyak benda they can export, so they will increase export revenue. Stabilize or increase employment, maksudnya sekarang lah, now that you have manufactured and semi-manufactured products, obviously you need to process this product, right? When you process this product, ada factory, this factory will cause factory, dalam factory tu you kena ada orang untuk assemble the product. So this factory will hire more people and that will increase employment. And lastly, increase use of technology and increase demand for high skilled workers. Increase use of technology maksudnya kan now that you have product, now you have a factory because you want to manufacture your product, or you have more workers to manufacture your product. Some technology also is being used and increase demand for high skilled workers. So to make, for example, kelapa sawit untuk jadikan sabun, you can't just extract it and make sabun, right? So you need people like scientists to make the best type of sabun so that you can manufacture it. So this all are all the benefit on why kita kena export, we need to diversify our export. Okay. Dah habis kat situ, kita tengok how can market-based supply side policy can impact economic growth and or development. So just now we learned about what strategy to achieve economic growth. Sekarang kita learn about how market-based supply side policy can impact economic growth. So number one is trade liberalization. So kita kena faham dulu what trade liberalization is. So trade liberalization is the removal or at least reduction of trade barriers that block free trades of goods. So for example, elimination of tariff barriers, quotas, export subsidies, and administration legislation. Okay. So the reason why kita nak remove semua benda ni is to help increase world trade, and we enable developing countries to concentrate on production of goods and services. So sekarang kita tak payah worry about tariff barriers, quotas, export subsidies, and import producer sekarang dah dapat more money when they import product, when they export product to another country. So more people akan be more interested in world trade, and this will increase diorang punya efficiency untuk make the product more good, so that more people akan beli. Okay. So the disadvantages of a trade liberalization is that developing countries lack the infrastructure and institutions that are necessary to gain full benefits from trade liberalization. Maksudnya, kita nak buat trade liberalization, right? Masalahnya, developing countries, diorang tak ada the infrastructure dengan institution untuk buat trade liberalization ni. Okay. And then the second point is protectionist policies. Okay, protectionist policies to block from exporting higher value manufactured goods can reduce effectiveness. And then the third one is subsidies can damage producers and international market. So kita nak kasih subsidies so that now people can export more products, right? But this can damage producers in international market sebab when you subsidize something, then that thing for you doesn't cost any much money and you can sell it at a lower price because profit you banyak. Tapi countries yang tak ada subsidi tu, they are selling it at a higher price sebab they have to tampung more cost. So it will affect those yang selling it at a higher price. So it damages producer in the international market. Okay. Second is privatization. So privatization tu apa? Privatization tu is the sale of public government-owned firms. Okay. Argument by free market economies, profit maximizing firm will be more efficient in increasing the potential output of economy. Okay. Basically, yang free market economies tu dia cakap profit maximizing firm. So kalau firm tu dia lagi kisah pasal profit, it will be more efficient sebab they only care about berapa banyak. They will only care about berapa banyak barang dikeluarkan. So hence they say that it is better if you privatize government owned firms. For example macam air, right? Kalau masa air, they basically free American market economists cakap better kita jual air daripada kita kasih for free, because later the infrastructure of trying to give air to people are more better. Okay. Why? Because nationalized firms tend to focus on maintenance of employment or provision of a service to an isolated market. Hence, they are less efficient. So nationalized firm, they care a lot about their punya employment, and they care a lot about their punya provision of a service. So they have the need to give, for example, people macam pension and whatnot that will cost money. But then kalau you privatize it, you don't need that. So the only thing that they care is about is maximum profit. So when you have maximum profit, you will get you will want more output. So they are becoming more efficient. And the advantages of privatization is that the process of privatization is challenging for developing countries. Some goods and services need to be provided by nationalized firm for them to be accessible and affordable. Like I said just now for macam water, if you privatize water, then it will become less accessible for more people, because now they care a lot more about profit. So obviously the price gonna increase, right? So this will make them less accessible and affordable. Example, water and sanitation. This is seen as human right. However, it needs huge expenses on infrastructure. Hence, developing countries turn it into private sector. Okay, this lack of competition and regulation on water industry can make water become less accessible. Finally, kita tengok what does deregulation will do in our economic growth and development. So deregulation will cause an increase in regulation. The deregulation to basically reduce in regulation on operation of business. Okay, sorry. Deregulation to basically you want to deregulate because increase in regulation on operation of business will increase cost of production, which reduce potential output. Maksudnya lagi banyak regulation kita letak, this will cause lagi sikit our potential output. And the reason why is because the reduction in regulation will increase aggregate supply, generate economic growth. So for example kan, a company they have health and safety regulation. Because they have health and safety regulation ni, they have to put extra money on trying to make the environment more safe for the people. And because they have to put the extra money, this extra money can essentially be used to increase potential output. But because they care more about the health and safety of the employee, they decide to use that money for the employees rather than to maximize your punya potential output. So basically there is the loss of potential output there. And leave and holidays tu maksudnya like now you have leave and holiday, so like people are not working as much. So then again, like I said, lack of efficiency, which also will cause reduce in potential output. Sebab orang tak kerja dah. So siapa nak buat the product? Okay. The World Bank Ease of Doing Business Index measure how simple it is to do business in a country by measuring the gap between an economy performance and a measure of best practice across 41 indicator. So kita akan tengok on the next slide. this is basically the business index score. So basically lagi tinggi lagi bagus because it measures the gap between the economy performance. So maksudnya kalau if your economy performance is good and then tak ada big gap between the 41 indicator, then basically you are having a good economic development. So as you can see here, New Zealand 86.6, 86.6, and then Somalia has 20.0. So basically Somalia does not have a good place to do business because they are not having a really good practices. Maybe diorang punya health and safety regulation tu teruk. They don't have leave and work holidays. So that's why their percentage is very low. So the disadvantages of deregulation tu, so basically tak nak put any regulation. Disadvantage dia damages safety and right of workers and debt-driven growth. Okay. So okay. Patutnya slide ni kat atas tadi tapi tak apa. So basically kita nak cakap tadi yang pasal export diversification, right? And how kalau kita nak buat ekonomi kita grow, kita kena diversify kita punya export. Daripada jual minyak, kita jual sabun. Diperbuat daripada minyak tu. So limitation to the strategy of diversification is that number one, kita kena ingat practice of tariffs escalation. The rate of import tariffs on goods rises the more the goods are processed. So maksudnya, kan kalau kita, okay, for example kita ada kelapa sawit je. Dan kelapa sawit, kalau kita nak export, kita extract, kita nak export, that doesn't cost a lot of money. That doesn't cost a lot of other product. Okay, so example you need just the raw material je. However, now that you want to process more product, you have to have more material. You nak buat sabun, you need to have other chemicals, and these other chemicals tu mungkin imported products, okay? And imported products tu mungkin ada tariff. So kalau you nak buat sabun tu, there are more tariffs on goods yang nak buat sabun tu, and then the rate of import tariffs basically pun naik je. It's just that it's just that whether one is processed and the other is not processed, okay? And the second one is importing country protects its industry by putting lower tariffs on raw material and component and higher tariff on processed and finished product. So basically because raw material is really important and it's seen as a commodity, importing countries, diorang lagi emphasize on raw materials. This make and some country tu dia protect tariff daripada raw material tu. Maksudnya kalau you nak bawa kelapa sawit dekat that country tu, you won't have any much tariff compared to the processed product. So the higher price caused by the tariff will make their process good and competitive. This basically macam contradicting dengan apa kita nak. Kita nak to diversify kita punya export so that country kita will grow, right? Economy kita will grow. Tapi masalahnya no one wants to buy the processed product because of the high tariff. So this is one limitation yang kita kena ingat. And the second one is the need for a more highly qualified workforce in order to produce relatively more sophisticated products. Second point ni maksudnya sebab kita nak buat more processed product, right? To make that processed product, we need highly qualified workforce and kita nak kena highly skilled workers sebab kita nak produce that product. It requires a lot of like scientific research, high knowledge on how to make that product and discovery so that you can diversify it, right? So because of the need of highly qualified workers, it is a limitation sebab kalau diorang, that country is not developed and then diorang tak ada these people, then it's really hard for them to diversify diorang punya export. So we are going to read you see, many developing countries have relatively low educational standards and find it difficult to fund an improving educational system. So basically, developing country ni, diorang dah tak ada high education system tau. So when they don't have the high education system, they can't make these products to diversify diorang punya product tu and then diversify dia punya export. This is really can be linked to poverty trap. Poverty trap tu because okay, you tak ada duit, you tak ada education, then you cannot work in a high skilled work and then you tak boleh ada high salary. So you are stuck in that poverty. So basically this is the same concept as that. And then low profit commodities and components. Oh, because tak ada education, you dapat low profit commodities and components sebab product you are not like high quality product, and this will cause low income for government and individual, perpetuates the low ability to fund education. So because product you people see as low quality and tak ada profit, basically this will make income for government and individual pun tak tinggi because no one is buying the product, and if people are buying the product pun profit pun sikit je. This lack in salary, lack in income for government individual, dan tax pun sikit, dan GDP pun sikit, and it's hard to now find education for the country. Then this whole cycle will start all over again. Okay.
Alright. Continue. Okay. Semua okay. Okay. Alright.
I think
next class.
we need to stop here because
Okay.
FDI is such a big topic, is it right? We
Banyak.
continue tomorrow. Boleh tak? Banyak kan FDI?
Banyak.
Banyak, okay. So while since we have like few minutes time, so anyone would like to comment on so many policies, strategies that we've been discussing so far for today's? We start with the earlier one will be import substitutions and export orientations. Then for this evening, we do have the apa Eli? Strategi Eli tadi?
Economic integration.
Economic integrations, and after that will be trade liberalization, is it right? Kan? Am I right? Then we do have the what's that? Integration, realizations. Then we do have yang latest apa? To privatization and nationalization. Is it true? Tak ada orang respon kat teacher lah. Okay. So all those things, if you do, if you are finance ministers of Malaysia, for example, which ones who you think is the best policies? So the best policy that Malaysia should, introduce, or Malaysia has been implementing. So Ellie, could you please call a names so that kita boleh tanya our Malaysian advisor, that person is, whoever that person. Ellie, pilih seorang.
Malaysia, Myra teacher.
Okay, Myra, you are the Ministry of Finance advisor. So what would be the best thing or the best strategies or something new that we Malaysia should implement to get a higher, to achieve higher economic growth, Myra? Myra faham kan, Pak teacher? I'm using iPad, so teacher tak berapa familiar with iPad punya screens. So, Humaira? Or anyone else would like to comment other than presenter?
Teacher, can I try?
Yes, please do.
So teacher, dia yang apa ni yang tadi Eli dengan Aziz terangkan teacher based on that point tu saya rasa lah teacher, my opinion Malaysia sesuai di regulation kot teacher.
Regularization.
Deregulation.
Deregulation. So when we say deregulation means that our economy has been regulated tightly, is it right? So example of regulation yang dah proved to be unnecessary, ada tak? Sebab you pilih deregulation kan, so maksudnya kita loosen up our policies or regulation. So ada tak example?
Polisi yang dalam maksudnya dalam business and economy kan teacher.
That is ya. Ataupun apa-apa. Sebab you kata deregulation kan.
Saya tak tahu sangat teacher, tapi sebab saya nampak macam privatisation dekat Malaysia macam dah banyak buat. So I think yang saya tak pernah macam dengar lagi deregulation lah.
Or you suggesting something new yang kita jarang buat?
Yes, I think teacher.
Yeah, okay. So maybe in some cases deregulation in terms of like law on in the old days policies that if you want to set your company in Malaysia, FDI, so you need to have a Malaysian partner. For example, deregulation may actually say that you don't have to have a Malaysian partner to set up business in Malaysia. That's one example of deregulation that actually will promote economic growth, means that we are reducing the criteria, the condition needed to set up business. That's one thing we can do. But if you go by overall, so far the ones that we use is export orientations, where we do encourage local businesses to produce and export their products overseas to take advantage of larger markets. Okay, and at the same time, we also practice protectionisms. So it could be in the form of protecting cheap imported items from coming to protect our local industry. But at the same time, we do have the subsidies being granted to certain industry to promote their productions, right? Economic integrations, there's one way to ensure that you have a close tie with the trading partners and also to enable you to trade with a lesser protectionism imposed to you. So we also done that. Okay, then yes, Husna is right in terms of privatization. We've been having it since, in early 20s. We have the first thing is that we privatize post Malaysia. We do privatize telecoms and so many things to reduce the burdens. And then what remaining left will be on essential items. But yet some countries says that, some economy says that we still have a bigger portions of civil servant. So means that in other countries, for example, in I think South Korea, the medical health is not under them, or maybe they have, but they have a lot of private hospitals or firms, clinics. That's run by the profit-making firms. And also that makes the cost of healthcare if maybe they do not have enough, or they don't have that serious problems, reducing their healthcare service. But it may be different situation in Malaysia, so we really needs for that. That's the reasons why we have a huge government expenditure there. So unless the firms, the center banks or bank negara who says that there are certain industry that they can privatize. Would it be possible if the government privatize, or not privatize, reduce its health, its education schools? For example, they maintain the primary school, they maintain the secondary school, and no more universities school or no skill, for example, funded by the government. What do you think? What do you think? Can we have Arham to answer my questions? What do Arham think?
Regarding what questions, teacher?
Regarding, government only sponsor education up to secondary school. So no more Giat Mara, no more College Mara, there's no more IPTA, University Awam. Then go to the markets to reduce government expenditure.
I think that would be a very bad move because that Mara and those type of skilled institution will produce a lot more skilled workers which are very needed in the market. So although it
But
will
they still offer the services.
it's still
Yeah, they still. It's just not. It's no longer funded by the government. Profit making lah.
but I think it will take a long time before another funding that is strong enough like the government's expenditure to support the funding.
Student support sendiri lah. Tak
Yeah,
boleh.
not enough, I would say.
Not enough. So it's not going. So why don't we maybe reduce our expenditure on healthcare pula? Tadi education kata tak boleh kan? Okay, healthcare?
Maybe I don't know, but if we reduce in healthcare, maybe our country would be like if we know how the situation in United States of America, where even an inhaler would cost so much, and the people are very very loud about it, but still they are living in a bad condition. So if government choose to reduce the
Market
funding,
prices.
okay, it would be
Yeah.
very bad.
Habis tu, kalau government really need to reduce its spending in terms of like civil servants, so what industry should the government, pick up? Healthcare tak boleh, education tak boleh. Industri apa lagi yang boleh?
Maybe the
Government agency?
that's one. Maybe reduce the paycheck to the menteri.
That is a tricky question because one thing is when you let you privatize or you let them to do on your to be in to operate in a market system, so the price they charge will be according to the market, will be very expensive. But at the same time, the governments are incurring high costs, so that's one thing. And all this is very important simply because Malaysia is a small country with a very limited number of national income. So we don't have enough money to channel to spend on our sectors of economies. And that's also one of the reasons why Malaysia's spending on military is quite low, if compared to our neighbors countries, simply because our main priority is not for the military, not for national, because we very positive of our safety, but so we spend a lot on developments of the developments of the people itself in terms of education, or developments of the state itself, to be on the infrastructure or the finance or the institutions that we have. So But it proved to be more a supply side policy, right? So with that, teacher ends our class. Tomorrow class kita pukul apa?
$12.40 teacher.
Huh?
12.40.
Sama juga 12.40 ya?
Sama juga.
Okay, and our last class will be on the Thursday lah.
Friday.
Oh, Friday. So Thursday kita ada kelas eh. Okay. So I see you again tomorrow at 12:40 noon. Bye-bye semua.
Thank you, teacher.
Thank you, teacher. Bye-bye.
Thank you, teacher.
Thank you, teacher.